everybody, Glenn here. So you want to play guitar, and the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't have a guitar. What kind of guitar should I get? Well, a lot of people have said to me, well, somebody told me that it's easier to learn on an acoustic than an electric. Not necessarily so, because if you're not making a decent investment in an acoustic guitar that is set up properly, the action can be high. It can be very frustrating to learn your first chords. Your fingers get tender, and then what happens? In 10 days to 2 weeks, you quit. So we don't want that to happen. You will have some tenderness in your fingers when you start out, but not enough to want to make you quit. If that's the case, then you didn't get a good guitar. When I started playing at 9 years old, my parents bought me a guitar at Lechmere Sales in Boston. And it was like a catalog type place, if you remember Service Merchandise in some of these places, where the item was on the floor and then it came down from a warehouse. Well, this guitar was, Chinese made. It was called a high-low. Should have been called more of a high than a low, because the action was this far off the strings, off the neck. The strings were like that far off the neck. And the guitar was very uncomfortable to play, but I stuck it out until I got a decent copy of a Les Paul electric. So you want to make a decent investment in a guitar initially. So that's the one thing I want to say. It also depends on what kind of music you like. So if you want to strum some chords around the campfire, you listen to a lot of Eagles and some country music, things like that, that's not electric based, you may want to start out with an acoustic guitar. That being said, you like the Beatles, Clapton, classic rock, anything new right up until grunge, you probably want to look at an electric guitar. The thing about electric guitar is it's virtually almost silent. You have to get some accessories with it. A cord, for one thing, to plug into an amplifier, which you will need. There are small practice amps out there that you can get, and then there are some great packages out there that actually have the guitar and the amp and the cords and the nylon case and accessories and those things. So both Epiphone and Fender have those packs that are available at your big box stores or online. So what I'll do in this basic message today is I'm just going to go through some of the basic electric and acoustic guitars to kind of help you zero in on your decision. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot of good information and a lot of bad information. I'm not saying my info's right or wrong, but from my experience, I'm going to share with you what I think might be best for you starting out. So let's talk about it, shall we? So the first guitar we're going to talk about here is a steel string acoustic guitar. This one actually has some electronics in it, so you can play this unplugged or plugged in. This particular style is called a dreadnought. It's a fairly large body, but it resonates well. So when you think about that, the more wood you have or the more real estate, the more the guitar will project. So this is a dreadnought, very common style guitar. This next guitar is what we would call a nylon string guitar. The strings, the top 3 strings are actually nylon, while the bottom 3 strings are steel. The neck is much wider than a conventional steel string guitar and thicker, so starting out they can be a little more difficult to play. But the string tension is a lot loose, and they also have a very nice sound to them. They're considered either for classical or Spanish style, but they also play wonderful things like fingerstyle jazz and things like that. This is a fantastic guitar. It also comes loaded with electronics, so you can play it acoustically or electric. This next guitar is also a steel string acoustic, and I've had electronics put in this one as well. But it's called a Parlor Guitar. Much smaller, so for people that are a little smaller and don't want to reach around a much bigger box type guitar, these guitars are the perfect solution for them. These were the average size of the guitar right around the time of the Civil War, and then the turn of the century, with Gibson making bigger styled guitars, and we got into the 30s and 40s. This style kind of went out of fashion, but they're kind of popular again. So another great option for you. So now that we looked at a few acoustic guitars, let's take a peek at some electric options and see if any of those might appeal to you. One of the first commercially produced electric solid guitars was the Fender Telecaster, invented by Leo Fender. It's remained virtually unchanged over the last 60-something years, and players still stand by them. They're very stable-wise as far as tuning and playing, and they're just fantastic guitars. They were kind of made famous by country players, but they've been used in every genre possible. The Fender Telecaster is always a great option for somebody starting out. The next guitar that Leo Fender came up with was the Fender Stratocaster. When this came out, it looked like something that came from the planet Mars. It was very much modernistic, and it had a 3-pickup design versus a 2-pickup design. If we want to talk about pickups, basically, for those that don't know, these guys here are basically the microphones that pick up the signal from the strings and then send it out to the amplifier. So we can do a whole other series on electronics and things like that, but I just want to talk about the guitars. So the Stratocaster, Stratocaster style, has been one of the most copied guitars in history. Even if you go away from Fender and go over to something like a Paul Reed Smith, this is a John Mayer signature model, and it's also a Stratocaster style. Regardless, this is another great option for somebody starting out because you get a wide range of tones on the Stratocaster. A style that's a personal favorite of mine is the Gibson Les Paul. This guitar has been played by everybody that's possible you can think of. I think of Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton and George Harrison. I mean, everybody's played this guitar at some point. This style is just tried and true, and they're great guitars, invented through Gibson and the late great Les Paul. Solid body guitar. Also has a different type of pickups in it. It has what we call humbucking pickups in it versus single coil. And we'll get into that at some other point, but they're much more robust sounding, fuller type pickup that are less noisy than single coil pickups. So the Gibson Les Paul. This guitar is what we would call a hollow body electric. It has 2 humbucking pickups in it, but it is completely hollow on the inside like an acoustic guitar. So these are primarily associated with jazz players and blues players. So it's a hollow body electric. Finally, I want to talk about what we call a semi-hollow body or semi-solid. This guitar is semi-hollow on the sides, but up the middle, you've got a center block, which helps prevent the guitar from feeding back, meaning the sound coming through the guitar and making a howling noise at high volumes. These were very popular throughout the last, 50, 60 years as well. So this would be a semi-hollow body. So I hope this video helped out. Whatever guitar you choose, remember, playing an instrument, especially guitar, is a fantastic journey. It is something that has changed my life immensely over the years. Even when I worked full-time job, I always played part-time and I was able to make extra money, or just being able to connect with friends. So have a great day. This is Glenn, Guitar Lessons with Glenn, and have a blessed day.